Hello YouTube, this is DVD Review Studios here, and today I shall be doing a review on the complete first season of Wentworth on DVD. This is the first season release brought over here to the UK and renamed to Wentworth Prison, which is kind of bizarre. I've been very much invested in this show, and with this being an Australian-based TV series, the UK releases of the show were a little bit more expensive, and I ended up grabbing some of the Australian releases for slightly cheaper, and the show is literally just referred to as Wentworth over there, so interesting title change, but there you go. But as I said, it's a show that I've been very much invested in for the past couple of months. It's a fantastic drama set in a women's prison. And it's a show that I thought I would throw out there in the review style as really a recommendation, since I wanted to give this show a little bit of promotion here and there, since it's overall a very exciting and very unique series compared to the likes of, say, Orange is the New Black, or maybe even something like Prison Break, since I was expecting this show to be basically like a women's version of Prison Break to an extent from reading some of the synopsises online. But thankfully not. It's its own thing. It's a very interesting and well-acted drama, and it's a show that seems to really have as a reimagined variation of its original predecessor from the 70s, known simply as Prisoner, with that also being about a women's prison. This seems a lot more contemporary and purposefully milks the drama aspect. Not to say that it's bad in any way, but with it literally describing itself as gritty, violent and sexy, not far off in some instances.
Actually, I have to postpone today's session.
Oh, well, I guess I just have to play with myself.
And that leads us to the characters, which were really the main hook for me personally. The storyline is a little bit weaker in this first season to an extent, but the way it builds into really seasons 2, 3, and 4 primarily with the character of B. Smith, portrayed fantastically by Danielle Cormack. She is a great lead, showing a very fierce change in personality over her seasons, and the series really does show how one prison sentence can really impact everything, as it says on the tagline, "One sentence can change your life." And that really is very evident, especially in some of the later seasons, where some of the characters just keep recurring and coming back to Wentworth Prison, where literally this prison is like a black hole. You can't escape from it for some of these characters, which to an extent really is a shame for some of these people, where you do empathize with their stories. Opposing empathy of any kind, we have the main antagonist, the bad bitch herself, as I will term her, which is only credit to how fantastic this character was, and that is Jax Holt, portrayed phenomenally by Chris McQuaid. What an absolutely incredible villain, a competent one at that, which is a rarity, I suppose.
Now, Francesca, I do run this prison, and nobody, especially you, challenges me and gets away with it.
A real master manipulator, and a very interesting character with a very shady background, where she is sentenced for murder and involved very heavily in a crime family. And with her being the top dog of the prison, where basically whatever she says goes, that ignites a very bizarre power struggle between the three main characters, which brings Frankie Doyle, my favourite character, into the picture, portrayed again phenomenally by Nicole Da Silva. And what an incredible character she is, very complex, very notable for her progression over the course of this series. And I very much enjoyed her dialogue in particular, very witty character and very well written. And again, just goes to credit how phenomenal this show is for its characters in particular, which is, for an establishing season, its core strength in my honest opinion. And so with that in mind, here is the back cover for the DVD set here in the UK. It's rated an 18 for strong sex, violence and sexual violence. Your total runtime is looking at 450 minutes there in total. And here is the inside artwork with the episode guide pictured on the inside cover, and the three main characters for this season over the 3 discs. Going through the episodes, first up is No Place Like Home, which, as much as it is B. Smith's induction into prison, to an extent it's also our induction as well as the viewer, where B is sentenced for her crime of trying to kill her abusive husband. And this is a very strange conflict that we see in these flashback segments, where she's actually caught by her daughter trying to choke her husband Harry with car exhaust fumes. And with some puzzling evidence stating that B may have been potentially trying to murder Harry, she is sent to prison on remand, but what awaits her will basically keep her incarcerated. And this first episode was overall very entertaining. The end prison riot was kind of unexpected, where the lead governor, Meg, is actually killed, creating a cliffhanger which is unveiled towards the end of this season. Next up is Fly Me Away, where in the aftermath of the riots, B. Smith is actually thought to be the main suspect of the governor's death, where she's basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this really adds a lot of realism, purposefully showing more tension between these characters. And I also really liked Will Jackson as a character in this episode, in particular, grieving for his wife, the governor. And I like how he was trying to blackmail some of the prisoners, creating a very unique struggle between them where he's trying to find out the truth of who killed his wife, but he's also then turning the prisoners against one another to try and get them to grass on each other. Next up is The Girl Who Waited, which is easily one of my favourite episodes with a significant focus on Frankie Doyle, and I love the opening flashback showing her crime, which was very unsettling but reflects a lot of her personality, with the remainder of this episode showing Bea stuck in the rivalry between Frankie and Jax. And Jax threatens the life of Bea's daughter Debbie, where she now manipulates Bea, cementing their position as enemies. And the end scene with the steam press, where Jax coaxes Bea into teaching Frankie a lesson, was very difficult to watch and definitely one of my favourite moments from this season, establishing the punishment of the steam press. The Things We Do was also a favourite episode of mine following the events of the steam press incident, where Jax thinks that she has successfully turned Frankie and Bea against one another, or so she thinks, and with her character being the master manipulator. With Bea's daughter now visiting the prison, Jax has her son Brayden purposefully get close to Debbie, leading to some very uncomfortable scenes, and we also delve into the backstory of the side character Liz Birdsworth, who struggles with alcoholism.
Some of the women in here, they stick drugs up their kids' bum.
Right, get her out.
The next episode is probably my least favourite on this set, to be honest, and that is The Velvet Curtain, where after the outburst in the previous episode, Liz is still struggling with her drinking habit, and this plotline just felt to really drag on. It just wasn't as interesting in my opinion, where we also have the other side character, Doreen, trying to basically take Liz's place as the prison's peer worker. Captive was a far more interesting episode, somewhat going into the life of one of the more prominent police officer characters, Vera Bennett, seeing her very unsuccessful love life and a cruel, empowering mother, genuinely a horrible character where we are forced to just simply empathize with Vera and just hope that she will eventually remove herself from this prison of her own. Another great episode is Something Dies, where the plot really does pick up in momentum, with Frankie suspected of bringing in drugs to the prison, and while in the slot in isolation, Jax plans for Frankie's return, which involves being ganged, to put it lightly. And when Bea tries to stop Jax's actions, she's taught a brutal lesson and hospitalized in the process. And in retaliation, we have one of my favourite scenes from Season 1, where we have Frankie standing against Jax and jamming her hand in a bench press stack, which was very satisfying to say the least. Next up is Mind Games. With the power struggle imbalance from the previous couple of episodes, we now have Jax making a final strike against Bea, using Brayden, her son. And she uses Brayden to take away the one thing in life that Bea cares about. And this sequence was very difficult to watch and only reconfirms Jax's competence as the main villain of the season. And as long as she can remain in control as the top dog, really nothing else matters, which solidifies how brutal of a character she really is. To the Moon was a very difficult episode to sit through, with Bea learning about what Brayden did to her daughter Debbie, and how she deals with this grief was incredibly well acted. And this leads to a very satisfying season finale, where we have Bea speaking with her husband about Debbie, where it's revealed to her that Brayden Holt has actually been interacting with their daughter. And Bea connects the dots, knowing that Jax was to blame all along with this very violent revenge. And with nothing to lose, Bea finally stands up to Jax, fatally. And this ending, in my opinion, really was perfect. It was technically the fact that Jax won to an extent with this scenario, where although she has been taken out, B is now going to become more accustomed to prison life thanks to these actions, which ultimately is the big payoff for this season as a whole. And so that's going to do it for my review on the first season of Wentworth. I hope you enjoyed. I was trying to be as vague as possible to an extent with some of my episode summaries, since there's a lot of detail to cover anyway with this first season, and some of the major plot points, especially towards the end, I've tried to really be subtle with, just because of how fantastic they are, not only as story points throughout this first season, but how they really do impact our main characters in particular, especially, of course, B. Smith herself. So hopefully this review will have convinced you to check out this series. I would highly recommend checking it out for sure. A very unique take on the prison system, in my opinion, with a lot of corruption storylines and some great character development for the main prisoners in particular. And if you want to see more reviews of this show, let me know in the comments. Should I review the next few seasons? By all means, I would certainly be willing to do so. So that's going to do it for my review. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to leave me a like down below. Let me know in the comments, have you checked out this series? What did you think of the characters? I'd be very interested to hear other people's opinions on this show. And for more videos, be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching.
Are you threatening me?